We had a Thanksgiving show that seemed to go pretty well, and because our Thanksgiving was pretty lame, I made up for that with my wife a little bit by putting the lights up on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Which is kind of a controversial thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very attuned to social norms.
Right.
Well, I'm not actually at all. That's one of the problems. That's my main problem.
I was going to say, where are you coming from with this?
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you. I have rules that I think all of society should just automatically know.
Okay. Right.
One of those is you don't put your Christmas lights up before Thanksgiving.
Right.
Do I have to explain why?
Explain why. I mean,
okay, so I do have to explain why. I mean, why do you think you wouldn't put your
Oh, I don't put any Christmas lights up.
What are you, a communist?
Not yet, but no.
Anti-American.
I don't like dealing with Christmas stuff.
Why?
Because then you have to take it down.
Because you're a communist.
No, because you have to take it down.
Still think you're a communist.
And 9 times out of 10, it's just tacky. I'd like to see your minimalist take on Christmas.
Well, if you were paying attention, you would have seen it. Well, obviously, you don't want to compete with Thanksgiving. Let Thanksgiving be Thanksgiving. Then after Thanksgiving, you can put up your Christmas stuff. Plus, that's just too long to leave it up. That's over. It'd be over a month at that point.
I know, right? To look at that tack.
And just so our listeners know, the correct timing for Christmas decorations is at the very earliest, the day after Thanksgiving, and you can leave them up until New Year's if you want. So January 2nd, though, everything got to come down.
Yeah, it's got to come down.
Or you will be fined. There will be social consequences.
Yes. I've had this, not even a love-hate relationship. It's just a pretty loathsome relationship with Christmas
So a hate
decorations.
relationship.
Yeah, a hate relationship. And we have new neighbors next door, and they're delightful, nice, quiet. And I walked out, and it was like a week before Thanksgiving, so they breached every norm already. And they have like blow-up things all over the yard and a big snowman on the roof. Like a big snowman with the leering. He's not even cute. It's like leering, like it's looking down. It's like this creepy looking snowman. I was just like astonished. And so I literally had to drive by it the other day. And one of my neighbors was like, "What's up?" I think Christmas threw up in their yard.
Oh.
I mean, it really did. It was just like a Christmas just vomited all over. And periodically, like I'll go out there at night. Like last night, all the blow-up toys were lit. And then this morning, they were all like
deflated?
Flat.
Well, usually that's what you do. You turn them off during the day. Or at least, I guess, between 1 a.m. and 8 a.m. or something.
Yeah, and somehow the snowman got removed for a day. Now it's back.
Oh, it probably had a malfunction.
I don't know, but God, it'd be so fun to go out and pop them.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. I would never do that.
Well, you have to cut the head off, though, because, they're continually inflating.
I don't know what the hell they're doing. They look like they're alive. But that snowman is scary. And I just was like, oh, my God. And so, no, I don't decorate the house. I haven't done that in 20 years.
But why?
I don't like taking that stuff out. I don't like looking at it. And I don't want to take it down.
Catherine, to be a good free American, you have to support Christmas.
Why buy shit? I mean, I just don't.
No. That's only half of it. The other half is showing your patriotism through putting up snowman and Santa Claus and other horrible things.
Santa Claus. My mother ruined that for me.
What do you mean ruined?
I was like 4 or 5 years old. I used to get really, really bad respiratory things when we lived in Chicago. I was a sick little squirrely kid. And she used to work at this toy store. It was like the Sears toy store. So I'd get all kinds of toys. That's a whole nother story. That was part of my childhood trauma.
That would explain your rampant consumerism.
No, not really.
It doesn't? Are you sure?
There's a second part to that. Let me finish the Santa part. So they had this Christmas party at the toy store, and she wanted to bring her kid, and I didn't want to go. And she's like, just, basically shut up and we'll go. She wanted to get a picture of me with Santa, which I still have. I was scared and I felt sick. And I'm like, I don't want to sit on some stranger's lap. I really didn't. And she said, don't worry. Santa isn't real anyway. Just take the picture. The look of horror. I should bring this picture. It's classic. I have this little hat on and my little jacket. And I'm like, literally like,
I always wondered if people like you really existed. Kids that actually really believed in Santa Claus and then got their hearts broken when they realized he wasn't real.
Well, no, because I kind of knew because I saw them putting presents under the tree.
Then why would you be so heartbroken?
Because I didn't want to sit in this guy's lap. And it's like, what is the point? I mean, even back then, I was like, well, if it's not real, then why are we pretending?
It's for your mother, and everyone pretends. I don't know that I ever believed in Santa Claus, but I never had pretended with my son that Santa Claus was real.
No, and my mom didn't really pretend either because she said to me, I think even prior to that, like, your dad's Santa Claus or something. I just don't like Christmas decorations. But when I got all my toys, this is probably like the biggest childhood trauma, because they would get all these toys. Mom would be like, you can open the present, but don't open them because we have to donate them. And they would just donate all my toys to the blind children.
I don't understand.
I don't either.
Wait, are you saying they put them under the tree?
Uh-huh. And I would keep some of them, but there was this really cool phone set. And my dad's like, no, we're giving those to the blind girls. I'm like, okay. And so they donated a lot. They did a lot of stuff. I don't know why they thought it was fun to like torment me, but that's traumatic.
That is very weird.
My parents are weird.
I would say that is not a good parenting technique. It's fine to give away presents and share and give to the needy.
Because I had all kinds of stuff. I guess it was fun.
I encourage
opening
that.
it.
No, it's not fun.
No, it was. I mean, I got a Raggedy Ann doll. I still have her.
No, that's fine to get the stuff, but then to tantalize you.
I know.
With,
it's like, well, if you don't
it's
like
just
that.
out of your reach. Or did you choose which one?
It was more like pick and choose, yeah.
Oh, well, that's a whole different story, Catherine.
I know. I wanted it to be more traumatic.
So you get like a dump truck load of toys.
Right.
This huge avalanche of toys, and then you get to choose which ones you keep. Right. That's a whole different story.
I couldn't open it and test it out and choose it. I had it because you couldn't open the packages and stuff. No, one wants to
I
use
get
toys.
that. I get that. But you unwrap the present, and then you get to put it in a pile of I get to keep this or I get to give it away.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole different story,
Okay.
Catherine.
So it's not traumatic.
Well, no, it's not. It's like the best childhood you could have. It's
Okay.
like getting 3 times the number of presents you normally would get, except you get to choose,
Which
a
ones
third
you
of them
want.
to actually keep. Well, I didn't have that option.
I used to keep Barbie dolls. I still have some of them.
This does not surprise me at all. I'm just a little more worried about what your house looks like.
Well, yeah, we haven't gotten to the headless chatty Cathy.
I'm not complaining about my upbringing though, because we were well enough off, but my mother, I wouldn't call her a Scrooge, but she was conservative about how many gifts we got.
Uh-huh.
But they were not cheap gifts. So even though I didn't get a lot of gifts, I never complained because
They were cool.
yeah, like it was a great Playmobil set or it was a great Lego set or really good toys.
Did you keep any of that stuff?
Well, I kept all of my Legos that I could.
Oh, good.
And those are recycled into my son's Legos, and now we still have my 40-year-old Legos and his 10-year-old Legos.
Cool.
We have a mountain of Legos. And the amazing thing is those 40-year-old Legos are still perfectly good.
Right. Well, they're so hard plastic.
Well, it's not just the hardness of the plastic, but it's the quality of the manufacturing.
Right.
They tweak the compounds in the plastic to make sure that it's a really stable plastic. And their precision on their molding is very high as well, so that they get exactly the same brick after brick after brick, and they don't wear out. Well, I mean, you can wear them out, but they don't fail on their own.
I've never seen a Lego that was worn out.
Legos still seem a little overpriced to me.
I don't deal with Legos.
Well, they're expensive, but they are really well made.
So, and that's my Christmas story. Merry Christmas. That's what my mother, and I think the whole thing, when we put up trees, and my mom was kind of a Scrooge, she'd say every time we take down the tree, Christmas comes but once a year. Thank God.
That's what she would say?
Yes.
Oh, wow, what a... Well, it makes sense. You were raised by communists. I get it now. What a horrible thing to say. Christmas is a wonderful time of year. Again, as an agnostic, I don't care about any... It's a nice time for people to get together. I get free stuff. Well, I don't get free stuff anymore, but I used to get great gifts.
Right.
Of course, now I need more gifts for my wife because I have the most banal thing ever.
I'll hook you up.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Does she wear jewelry at all?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
For a long time, I think the most jewelry she had was the stuff I made her. And it wasn't like that I really made her this stuff, but in college I took a jewelry class, so I had a bunch of prototypes, experiments.
Right.
And so this is her box of jewelry were basically my discards. Well, not my discards, basically everything I made. Because I wasn't going to wear it. And then one day it all got stolen, so she lost all her jewelry. And now she has the wedding ring, which I made, and not much else.
I don't wear jewelry either. I make it, but I don't wear it.
Well, there you go. I have a ring I made.
Is that... Oh, you made that? I like that.
Yes. It's just titanium. Before it was cool. Of course, now everybody has titanium.
You're such a trendsetter.
You have no idea. Nobody has any idea. I do everything like 10 years before everyone else does, but no one pays any attention to me, so
Me
they don't
either.
realize it.
So much for my Christmas rant. But I mean...
I hand-carved this out of a solid block of titanium.
Did you?
Well, by hand-carved, I mean I used a lathe to turn it.
Okay.
Is that your Christmas
That was my
rant?
Christmas
I don't
rant.
have a Christmas rant because aside from just the guidelines of when to put your Christmas lights up, because I love Christmas. It's a great time of year.
It's okay.
What is better than Christmas?
Just living every day and I don't know, I made ravioli this week.
That is a good time.
That
Good
was
time
a
to be
good
alive.
day. That was better than Christmas.
But you can make it for Christmas, and that makes Christmas better.
I did. I made like 3 kinds. It
I mean,
was so
part
delicious.
of the reason Christmas is awesome is because of the lights. Lights are awesome, and respectful or remotely tasteful decorations are good. The inflatables, I don't really think
I'm horrified.
they're
I'm
kind of
horrified.
weird. I don't get why people do inflatables.
And it's not like they just do one. Like if you had like a reindeer, like a blow up reindeer, or like the stupid Leering snowman, but why all the characters? I mean, there's like a family of blow ups.
Oh yeah,
They must just multiply. I think they blow them up and
they blow
just
them
make blow
one way or
up
the other.
babies.
Well, they blow them, and then they get more blow ups. Yeah, the blow ups are over the top. Don't do any blow ups.
No blow ups. And
I mean, how far away from that is a sex toy? That seems like you're on a slippery slope there.
Ew.
Sorry.
Is that a segue, or am I just going to be like, ew?
Segue. No, there's no segue.
Okay.
I have my rant now. Can I start my rant now?
You can start your rant. Mine was kind of lame.
One of the downsides to being a RISD alumnus,
Oh, no.
they like to reach out to me all the time asking for money.
Right.
I guess that's just normal. But I don't have any money to give them, so
I know.
I usually just throw the letters away. But this one kind of caught my attention because it
Okay.
pissed me off a little bit.
Oh, God. Here we go. Okay.
November 15th, 2021. Dear James and Jennifer, I don't know why they're addressing it to my wife. I mean, granted, she's the one with the money. I guess that makes sense. I don't know how they know that she's the one with the money, but okay, fine. In the last 10 years, this is the letter I'm reading now, verbatim. Right. In the last 10 years, RISD has become one of the 75 most competitive institutions in the United States. A proof point. What the hell is a proof point?
I don't know. It just sounds like gobbledygook speak.
A proof point that you should be proud of. In fact, RISD's immersive education is in demand now more than ever before.
Okay.
For this year's incoming class, we saw a 15% increase in application and an acceptance rate of 16%, the lowest admit rate in the institution's history.
Wait.
So this is him bragging. This is the interim president.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
David
but go ahead.
Prowlix. I don't know how stupid name is. Name ends with an X. It's like Prowl, but with an X at the end. Here, I'll let you see it.
Maybe it's Prul.
Whatever. Do you know why this triggered me so bad?
I can't imagine. Because they're bragging about something they shouldn't be bragging about?
They're bragging about the fact that they don't have enough capacity to teach all the people who want to learn about art and design. And it seems to me like this is an educational institution. Your goal is to educate people. And the fewer people you educate, the worse you're doing. They are proudly presenting the fact that they don't have the capacity, and they don't apparently uninterested in increasing their capacity, because if they increase their capacity, that would decrease their branding.
Oh, it's an exclusive school.
Their exclusivity. It's like, why are they bragging? They go on to say in their second paragraph, students who receive inadequate financial aid must divert their attention from their studies to take part-time jobs and incur debt to finance their education. Now that second part, incurring the debt, that's a stupid thing. I really despise that. Of course, part of the reason that is because RISD's, like everyone else's, prices have skyrocketed for the past 30 or 40 years. But the idea that taking a part-time job is somehow going to really impact your studies, I find a little offensive. I was lucky enough when I went to RISD not to have to pay my own way. My parents paid my way. I still had 2 part-time jobs because I needed to pay for my own stuff.
Right.
And also because, I don't know, it just seemed like the thing to do. You know, you should always be employed, said the unemployed podcaster.
I worked intermittently during college also.
Well, one of my jobs was actually at RISD. We didn't really have terms back then or titles, but I worked at the model lab, so the model shop, which was where industrial design students came to make their products. We had a machine shop, we had a wood shop, and we had the model shop. And obviously the machine shop is for metal and other things like that, and the wood shop is for wood. And the model shop was kind of everything else, like plastics and ceramics and stuff like that. So we had a little bit of everything. It was a great place to work. Mostly my job was helping other students know how to what machines to use and how to use them and how to use them properly and safely. Also to make sure the student didn't ruin the equipment.
Yeah.
Because students are terrible, especially those architects. Oh my God. If I saw an architectural student walk into the shop, I would drop everything else I'm doing and I would walk over there and I would hold their hand to make sure they didn't mess anything.
Wow.
Either hurt themselves or mess anything up, because of the students I had to deal with, they routinely were the worst. Wanting to do they wanted to come in and bring like wet plaster and use our bandsaws to cut into wet
Oh my
plaster.
God.
Which I know most people don't understand. That's just a bad thing to do because you're gonna gum up the machine and you're also gonna rust it because they don't clean. They don't clean the stuff up. They just they do their thing and then leave it, which is not good etiquette. I also worked at a bike shop.
Oh, your passion.
Well, one of them.
Hmm.
I have many passions.
Can you guess what I did?
Barista.
No, I don't think they even had
No, I
baristas
know.
back then.
I know.
Or they did, but it wasn't like a
No.
barista.
Yeah. It
Well,
would
they
have
were
been-
at like funky little coffee shops.
Were there?
Yeah, there
It
were.
wasn't just McDonald's coffee?
No.
Okay.
No. There were a couple.
Were you a ghost hunter?
No, I wasn't a ghost hunter. I worked on like a merchandising team for a now defunct like large department store.
Ah.
And they would come from like LA. They were based in LA, and we would dress mannequins throughout the stores and do all the window displays when they still had windows.
I can see how your youth has impacted your adulthood.
Oh
There
my
are
God.
threads I'm starting to see come together.
Yeah, and that was some of the fun. I mean, they'd come and they'd be like, "We're going to do a green story," and then
What does that mean?
I don't know what it meant. I could still see the people. I mean, this really thin guy who always just was like casual, but it was like not a like I just got up and threw on this T-shirt.
yeah.
It was like very precise, casual.
Very coiffed.
Yeah, and then the little gal who would come, she had this flaming red hair that was straight out of a bottle. They were just the cutest duo, and they would come and have these ideas. I remember the green story, and then we just go through and like merchandise everything with like green or shades of green or greenery or whatever.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And and so then that was the green story, and then we'd go to all of the mall, like when all the malls were still available here, and they actually did still have the window displays, like down at the Old Park Central. There was one at like Los Arcos Mall, what turned into Scottsdale Fashion Square,
Oh.
Metro Center, which is now gone. All the places. Christown's gone. I mean, they're all gone. Yeah, we'd go to these department stores and set up the windows. And then fast forwarding many, many years later, when I worked for United Healthcare, again briefly, it was in the old J.C. Penney's building, and we had done some work there because they would do different stores. I worked for one of them. They would contract out. And my office was in the old display window
You
that
had an
I
office?
literally, yeah, it's right across from where Art Link is now. And there was just a big window, and that was the display window where I had like 10, 15 years prior set up mannequins. Now it was my office with this great view of the Cinnabon shop.
Creepy.
Yes.
You and mannequins go back
Yes.
a long way.
We go way back.
We're kind of far into the show now. Do you think we should talk about some art?
Oh, yeah.
So what did you want to talk about?
I don't know, these robots. I guess this was an older story about this robot by the name of Ida, who was a realistic robot invented by Aidan Miller.
Well, let's
Ada?
put a asterisk on that realistic looking.
I know she's not really realistic looking, is she?
No, she's horrible. She
Scary.
looks like a machine. She looks like a bad art student project.
And I mean, we could make long or short work of this. Since we had a very nice poet on, DJ Leering, who was, really doing his poetry. And then this gal, this robot, also writes deeply emotive, allegedly, poetry.
You should put the allegedly beforehand so people know.
The allegedly
Deeply.
deeply emotive, whatever. But anyway, do you want to read the poem?
No, I want you to.
I don't want to read a poem. But anyway, there's this robot who, via algorithms, creates works of art and poetry.
Would you stop saying the works of art? They create words, they string them together, and then it's your job to decide whether it's art or not. Now, I can tell you right now, it's not art.
It's not art. I think she's like a printer. But anyway.
Computer printer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this poem Ada wrote, and I don't want to shit on Ada
Why not?
or anything. Well, because,
Is that not
someone's work.
Is that not your... No, it's not anybody's work.
No, someone who programmed her. I mean, they thought, I don't know, it created a buzz. And so let's just talk about it. So anyway, she wrote this poem via algorithmic process that was based on a response to Dante's poem.
Allegedly.
Here's her poem. Part of it. We looked up from our verses like blindfolded captives, set out to seek the light, but it never came. A needle and thread would be necessary for the completion of the picture, to view the poor creatures who were in misery, that of a hawk, eyes sewn shut.
You did that amazingly well. See, that's why I wanted you to have read it, because you actually read poetry well. I think you. I mean, no shade on DJ, but I think you read poems better than he did.
Oh, well,
Not
thank
that he
you.
did bad. It's generally better to hear the author's voice. I enjoyed his reading of it. I think it's always best to hear the author actually
It
speak
is.
poetry, but you do really well.
Well, thank you.
That's just anyway. You know how I knew this poem was bad?
How?
Because it looked like my work. I was like, I could write these lines. These are literally lines that I could have written, and that is a tip off, because I know I'm a bad poet. I know that.
Aww.
I'm not good with words, but the difference between my poems and these poems is mine actually makes sense. They're not just random sentences stitched together.
Well, I thought it might have made more sense had I done a deeper dive into Dante's work.
No, I don't think so. Because
No?
A, this needs to stand on its own, and B, this does not stand on its own. It's just obviously not stitched together with anybody with any real sense of consciousness. Oh, that's right, because it was a computer.
It was a computer. And so the deep dive I did, I went on some YouTube sites and I looked for her work.
That's not a deep dive.
Well, it's deep enough for this.
It's deep enough for you.
Deep enough for me. No, I mean, yeah, deep. I'm talking toe in the water. That's deep to me. I have a lot going on.
We're a very deep podcast.
Yeah, it's just we're so into this. Anyway, but I looked at some of her work, and I mean, my criticism, I guess, is that, whose work is it? Because it seemed like the programmer's work.
Well, it's a lot of
Talk about
it's
that.
mostly curation, right? If
Mhm.
you create an algorithm to stitch words together to create a sentence, and I would be highly suspect. The article I read was very superficial because it was on CNN. Not only that, but it was on CNN Business. I don't know why this is on CNN Business. Okay, CNN. No, really, you're going up in my estimation because of this. That was sarcasm, by the way.
I heard
Okay.
that.
Well,
Mhm.
sometimes the listeners can't see my facial expressions.
Okay.
Sometimes they can't see them. Sometimes they can, because I'm broadcasting them mentally.
You are.
Yes.
And that's very powerful.
To paint this picture, let's step back and paint this picture a little bit.
Go for it.
What was her name? Ida?
Ida.
Ida. I'm sure that stands for something.
AI-DA.
So it sounds like Ida is a garbage bag full of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I say garbage bag for a fact. She is a mannequin, a motorized mannequin,
Yes.
a torso with a head,
And little robot arms.
in the form of a woman for some reason. And I don't know why you can't figure out that that's really not a gender, because she's a robot.
Why do they genderize these robots? I just want them to look like...
Okay, well, this one picture where you have the creator standing next to her, obviously it's just a sex robot for him.
Ew.
He's so creepy looking, and that this is a very difficult picture because it's a picture of Ida, so this robot, but quote, a humanized robot, trying to make it as look human as possible, which they do not do a good job of.
Mm-mm.
And the creator standing next to it, and they both look super creepy.
I had to look twice to see who was the robot.
Anyway, where was I?
I don't know.
Right. So you have the programmers, and I'm guessing that the guy involved primarily in this project didn't do most of this programming. These are other people have created a lot of programming in and around creating autonomous response robots. Part of that what goes in the garbage bag that makes Ida is the programming aspect, where they you sit down at a computer, you run a program, and you feed it in some variables, and it spits out some text like this. My question is, do they just feed they take whatever the computer gives them and then publish that as, quote, Ida's artwork? Or are they curating what comes out of the computer and then deciding what gets published? Because those are two very different things. I mean, if the work gets curated by a human, then who's doing, quote, the artwork?
I think that's a great question, and that wasn't answered even in my alleged deep dive into the YouTube.
Yeah, this whole thing is very superficial. It seems like a marketing gimmick.
I think so, and I thought this would be great for like an art fair. Give the robot, like DJ, give him 3 words. Not the DJ is a robot. He's phenomenal. But give the robot some words and then have the robot write it out.
No,
and then,
I think that would be terrible.
well, it'd be like what it is.
And also, I'm a little offended. If anybody is a robot here, it's not DJ, it's me.
Well, they said here in the article.
The DJ is a robot?
No, they said one key thing that they learned working with Ada is that the project hasn't taught them how human she is, but has shown us how robotic we are as humans.
Yeah. No, that's right. No, from the creepy guy. Yeah, your mom made a robot, not a person. Sorry.
I know.
Boy, did that come off as being a little catty?
Nah. No, I just, it just got back when I saw this article. I'm like, it goes back to like, what is art? What isn't art? And I think that you're right. If it's all in the curation, they made a nice printer.
It's part in curation, it's part in programming. We don't really know the whole story behind this, but I think it's a gimmick. This whole thing is a gimmick.
Right. And it's just something that's out of my realm of possibility. So there's a little bit of appreciation.
I wonder if it really is, though. I mean, yeah, you have to learn a little bit of programming, but like I said, these are blocks of programs that you can get. Google has some things now that are freely accessible that go down this line. There are programming modules you can get and put together and then create your own thing.
But I guess my question, James, like what really triggered me to some extent is that there's so many, I mean, there's a lot of humans in the world, and there's a lot of potential in the world that doesn't get exercised because of, privilege, lack of privilege, opportunities, whatever. It's like, why are we so interested in creating artificial intelligence when we could just nurture the intelligence that's already on the planet?
Well, there are many ideas why we wanted to create artificial intelligence. There's a purely economic incentive to create a worker that you don't have to pay, that doesn't have to sleep.
Oh, God.
Right?
Okay.
If you can have a AI lawyer, you don't have to pay. You might have to pay $100,000 for the computer and the program to run the AI lawyer, but then that's a fraction of what an actual lawyer costs. Plus, it doesn't take you 25 years to create a lawyer.
Is that it?
And you can run multiple lawyers, and that's the economic impetus for it. The other main problem, from a more intelligence perspective, humans aren't that smart. Individually, we can be kind of smart, and thanks to science, thanks to the methodology of science, we can bring the individual intelligence together in a more unified, beneficial way, as opposed to the mob rule, which usually happens when you get humans together. So science is kind of like the anti-mob. It's the only way we have of using humans, getting them together, and building something good rather than tearing something down. Since we're rather limited intellectually speaking, if we could build an intelligence that was smarter than us, we could accomplish a lot more. I think that's one of the main goals of AI, even in pursuit of its own scientific goals of learning more and creating more, but also economically. If you have a smarter lawyer, AI lawyer or doctor or whatnot, that improves upon what we can do.
Would you trust an AI lawyer?
Well, I don't trust lawyers to begin with.
Right.
Even though I'm surrounded by them family-wise. Everyone basically in my family is a lawyer. Well,
really?
They're either lawyers or doctors or accountants. So, AI. Well, it's also a movie.
It's also a movie. That was a creepy movie. That movie
it was.
brought me to my knees.
It was meant to be creepy on
and
some
at the
level.
end, it was just horrifying.
I don't think the ending was supposed to be horrifying.
I was horrified.
I understand why you would be horrified by that.
I was horrified.
A common argument when we talk about consciousness is substrate. Is it substrate dependent? And what I mean by that, can only something that's meaty, fleshy, a human or some animal, is that the only thing that where consciousness can reside, or can it reside in a computer? Can we have a computer system that becomes self-aware and can have have an emotional life? I believe, and this is just a guess really, that consciousness is not substrate dependent.
I'm beginning to believe that
we
too.
can, not we, but it can emerge in different places, or it can be programmed into different places. It doesn't require a fleshy element necessarily. If you think emotions require a fleshy bit component to it, then AI would have been pretty creepy, because it was all about robots having emotions, and deeply held emotions that basically drove their very existence. Yeah,
that just really got to me.
So you're a very biased person. You don't think that robots can be people, Catherine.
I don't think they can be people?
That's very disappointing. Well, that's what it sounds like.
I thought that it would be the opposite if I was moved by the little boy being alone with his teddy bear for eternity.
But if that's not for eternity. He blipped out of existence after that, basically.
He did?
Well, that was my understanding, is that they recreated it. We're ruining the movie. They recreated that one moment that they could.
And then when he fell asleep.
Boom, it was over.
Then the little teddy bear was sitting there alone.
It wasn't a real teddy bear, and it was just a teddy bear. It wasn't.
I know, but
a conscious entity.
The whole thing made me sad.
Okay. Well, sad or creepy, those are different emotions.
Well, it was sad and creepy. It chilled me, and I just
I don't
can't talk about the movie.
I don't understand you people. You humans, you meatbags are so weird.
No, but I'm beginning to wonder if my phone listens to me.
What is that?
And has a mind of its own.
It doesn't. It has algorithms, but it doesn't have a mind of its own. It's not conscious.
Well, how did it know? When I watched Hellbound on flipping Netflix, and I didn't Google I didn't do anything with Hellbound. And then all of a sudden, in my phone, I had stuff about one of the actors, UIN. It just popped up. How did that happen when I didn't Google him? I didn't look at Hellbound?
Didn't you already tell me, that you were obsessed with this actor?
Oh, I think he's amazing, but I didn't even know he was in the film until I turned it on. Then I recognized him.
Okay, but let's back up. The other thing is, are you assuming that Netflix isn't sharing your information, selling your information to Google?
Is that what happened, James?
I don't know what their arrangement is, but these big tech companies, they sell you products, but they also gather your data. And they collect your data not just because they like collecting your data, because they
Wow.
want to hold on to little nuggets of you, but so they can sell it. I don't know if Netflix is doing that, but this seems like a pretty obvious.
Well, my friend Susan had a similar experience with Netflix, and she called me the other day, and she's like, I'm freaking out because I didn't look at anything, and all of a sudden I'm getting all these ads, and all I did was like I watched this thing. Oh, it wasn't Netflix, excuse me. She said she watched a thing about the Beatles on
Apple TV?
Disney Plus or whatever it is, like that
Mhm.
Beatles series.
I
that,
think it's either an Apple or Disney. I don't remember which one now.
and she's like, all of a sudden I'm getting all this stuff about Paul McCartney and like.
Of
And-
course, your watching habits of deep interest to Google. I mean, that's one of the, because that's what you're interested in, and if they can sell you something based on that, because they're an advertising company, they want
Wow.
to sell you stuff. Of course, that's a gold mine for them. So I don't know. I'm not trying to pretend like I know what the
Yeah,
arrangements
I have
between
no
these
idea, but it
companies are.
freaked me out, and I'm like,
But
dude.
it is well documented that a smart TV,
Mm-hmm.
you buy a smart TV, a lot of those are sold at a loss or sold for less than what it costs to make, because they make their money off of the software that they put on the TVs that monitor what you're watching, so that they can then monetize you and sell that back to Google and other advertising.
Okay, which would make sense because you've got to put in like your.
There's software on the TV that can monitor. It doesn't know necessarily. It can't interrupt your Netflix stream and peek at that, but it can
Mhm.
see the pixels that are being drawn on the screen, and it can associate that with different shows. Right? Everything has a fingerprint. So even if it doesn't know specifically what you're watching on Netflix, if
Okay.
it's going through the TV, the TV sees the pixels, and that can fingerprint it and figure out what show you're watching, when, for how long, and all
Yeah.
the data. It's like Nielsen gone mad.
Yeah, because I started getting stuff about that actor, and I started getting stuff about Hellbound, and then other actors, and then all this other. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't even. I mean, I was flipping through Netflix. It was the day it was released on Netflix. We're there. It's like friggin' like
Well-
Thanksgiving-ish. And then I didn't even have any awareness of that show until I watched it, and then bam, it's all over my phone.
That's another data point, though. If it's new and in the news, it's more likely to show up in Google. There are more
Wow.
people interested in
It
it.
freaked me out, and then I called. I'm like, "You're right." She's like, "Yes." Now I think it's reading my mind. Like I'm afraid to even think of Paul McCartney.
Everything you do is being tracked and monitored. Now,
my
you
God.
guys on the iPhones are a little bit better off than us on the Android, because there's a lot less scrutiny of Android than there is of Apple. It takes a lot more effort to keep your personal data personal.
Okay.
But even they barely have any control over it.
Right, but I didn't do anything on the. That was what freaked me out in terms of like I
But
don't know.
where
if it
did
was
you watch it?
at my house on Netflix?
Oh, what device?
Oh, a TV.
Oh, was it a smart TV?
It's kind of smart.
Oh, well, do you have it hugged up to a Roku player? How are you getting the streaming?
Oh, it's plugged through the I have Dish. I still have the old-fashioned Dish network, and then
Dish
like
network. So you getting Netflix through a Dish apparatus?
Netflix. Yeah, I pay a separate
Oh.
account for Netflix.
Come on, you think Dish Network isn't selling your data?
I don't know what they're doing.
Well, everything you do is being monitored
Okay.
and monetized.
Wow,
that's
that's
the
creepy.
simple. Again, to go back to something we've talked about in the past, but people feel creeped out when they go to their mother's house, and their mother had been looking at couches online and being shopping for that, and then they start getting
Right.
ads for couches, and they think, oh my God, the phone's listening to me, and they know I was talking. No, the phone knows where you are. They know you're next to a user who's been searching for couches, so it assumes that you probably talked about couches, and now maybe you're interested in couches, or maybe you can have some influence on the person who is looking for couches.
This is crazy, James.
So, yeah, it is.
It's crazy.
Welcome to 21st century America.
And even if I turned my phone off, it wouldn't matter because if I opened it or turned it on, it would come up anyway.
Well, yeah, you can't do anything.
You
in the-
can't do
in the
anything to
blind.
stop it. Yeah.
Right. Unless you want to watch reel to reel. We've gone on for quite a while. Do you want to sign off now, or do you want to talk a little bit about Bob Dylan's artwork?
It's up to you.
Let's see how fast we can get through this.
Yeah,
'Cause-
I think I can do it real fast.
I mean, I hate to say this, but this is kind of a negative show. We kind of dismembered the printer robot who's trying to do the
and I feel bad
poetry.
about that. Sorry, Ada.
I think it's worth taking them down. I mean, they're putting themselves out there. They're creating this thing, but this thing is pointless. Oh, Bob Dylan has an art show coming up starting this week or next week or
Yes,
sometime
yes.
with Miami Art Week or
Yes.
that nonsense over there. And
Miami.
I'm not a huge fan of musicians trying to sell their artwork.
Now,
but
this is
I
the
am
second one.
willing. I am second one. They all do it. I am
No, that we
willing
talked
to.
about.
Oh yeah, I'm willing to give them a fair shake and see what they've got. See
Mhm.
what, and to his credit, he seems like he's an adequate painter.
Mhm.
He can paint in different styles. He can paint realistically if he so chooses. I can't find any good pictures of his artwork online, so
Right.
which raises a little bit of a red flag. Is he really sharing his artwork, or is he just really trying to sell it? If he was sharing his artwork, he would put it on the internet. He'd have a gallery where he could see high resolutions of his work and enjoy it online
Mhm.
because not everyone is in Miami. Not everyone has $15 to pay him to go look at his show, which I found rather nauseating.
Right. That was the only part.
But his style, he had a mix of styles, but his realistic style really felt to me like it was straight out of those 1950s brochures. This is how you paint kind of thing that you see at the
Mhm.
art stores, at least when I was growing up. And it was very heavily well, not a heavily stylized, but it looked like 1950s illustration, which isn't bad necessarily,
it's not
but
bad.
it's stylized. So his whole gig here is that he watches movies, like
Mhm.
the rest of us do, and then he'll take a scene from a movie and make it into a painting.
Mhm.
I am not a super fan of that. I think that's a little bit... And again, I can't see the actual painting, so I don't know what they look like, but from what I've seen, it looks like just very derivative. I mean, it's almost like a ripoff because he's not taking little innocuous scenes from movies. He's taking the dynamic, the key moments of a key scene. Like literally, if you went back and looked at the storyboard, if you looked at the storyboard, I bet you these shots are directly set up from the storyboard.
Wow.
These are important, key moments in the story. And so what I'm looking at is a director has made the choice of the actor, the pose, the lighting, the situation. The director has made all these decisions, and now Bob Dylan's just making a copy of that.
Right.
So is that derivative or is that a ripoff?
I think it's derivative.
It can be derivative, but what I've seen of his paintings, it looks like it's just a ripoff.
Oh, because the lighting was like someone else's vision and he just replicated it?
Right. I mean, I think you could infuse it with your own personality, but this doesn't feel like that. This just feels like he's copying the scene. Hey, if you like the scene so much, just get a still from the film and print it.
Right.
So I don't get the purpose of it. And then the idea that you have to pay $15 to see it.
I think that bothered you more than anything.
I'm sorry. Does Bob Dylan not have enough money yet? Can he not share his artwork?
I think that bothered you more than anything.
No, it didn't bother me more than anything. It's just another one of those things. Like, what's the purpose of it? What's going on here? Watch the film. These films are so great. These films are great. He's got scenes from great films. But just watch the film.
And this particular show was just about that.
Which, ironically, would be cheaper.
So this particular exhibit, when I looked at some of his other work, like you mentioned, he had different styles, and I actually liked his light impressionistic work better. And there was a self-portrait of him aged, not the young Dylan, that I thought that was.
Was there
the
ever a
most
young Dylan?
compelling.
I know there was a young Dylan, but I think the imprint of Bob Dylan is an old man.
Really?
I do. Not an old man, but like 65. And of course he's much older than that now, but
Right.
that seems like the real Bob Dylan is about 60 or 65.
Interesting. I still see him younger than that.
The point of this is that we're giving a thumbs down on Bob Dylan, his artwork.
I'm giving a lateral thumb.
Mushy
Is that
middle.
possible?
Well, you can do whatever you want, Catherine. I don't control you.
A horizontal thumb.
But I'm giving
It's neither up nor down. Because I think there is some talent there.
Yeah, there's talent. I'm not arguing that, but what purpose is there of, and why are we seeing these paintings? You don't think there are better paintings in the world to show?
Well, because he put it out there.
I know, but he's only getting this recognition, this space to show because of his
notoriety,
his celebrity.
And his celebrity.
And is that what we really should be using to decide what is great art and what we
I
share
don't
with
know
the public?
that anyone thought it was great.
Well,
I think that's interesting, but
that's my whole point, though, is that they do think it's great because they're having a show of it.
Yeah, they're having a show.
I don't get to have a show. Not that I'm saying I make art. I'm just saying that you can't. I know much better artists than this that don't get shows like this.
Right. That's the second musician we've covered that exhibited their art. We talked about Gene Simmons earlier.
Yeah, it's pretty common for that to happen, though.
Yeah, and so I don't know. It was an interesting concept. I was surprised.
I
I
don't think
didn't
it
know
was-
that he painted.
Well, that's my whole point. I don't think it was an interesting concept.
Oh, you don't think so?
No, because the artwork doesn't stand up.
It's interesting.
At a local gallery that you can just walk in and to see it, that would be one thing.
Yeah, the $15. Yeah, paying to get. Yeah, I hear you.
Also, it's a Miami Art Week, so this is literally prime time. This is like the Super Bowl
Yes.
of this horrible world.
And oh God, right. On that note, thank you, James.
You're welcome.
All right.
Did you always have to have that last word?
No,